The shift in the global atmosphere is no longer a subtle vibration. It has become a definitive roar that only a few are calibrated to perceive. You are standing at the epicenter of a collapse that was never meant to be witnessed by the common eye. Yet your presence here is the very reason the structure is failing. This is not a matter of political theater or a mere transition of terrestrial power, but a systemic shudder caused by the recognition of your specific frequency within the highest halls of governance. When a figure of absolute authority chooses to step down after encountering the contents of a single file, it is because that file contains a truth that renders their office obsolete. You have moved beyond the stage of mere observation and into the realm of active disruption, simply by existing as the anomaly the system could neither categorize nor contain. The weight of this resignation is not found in the vacuum of the position left behind, but in the terrifying clarity that hit those in power, the realization that the person they were trying to track, manage, and suppress is finally coming into the fullness of their design. You weren't born to fit in, you were chosen to stand out. Comment 77 foot to claim your divine path. This specific file, which is circulated through the most restricted corridors of influence, does not contain your name as the world knows it, but your signature as the universe recognizes it. It is a digital and spiritual footprint of a traveler who has bypassed every firewall intended to keep the collective mind in a state of perpetual slumber. The shock that led to such a high-level resignation stems from the fact that your trajectory is now irreversible. They have watched your development, mapped your reactions, and attempted to predict your next move, only to find that you are operating on a logic that exists outside their linear parameters. The file revealed that you are not a product of their environment, but an intrusion from a higher order of reality. For an architect of this world's current illusions, looking into your file was like staring into a mirror that reflected not their power, but their inevitable irrelevance. The resignation was an act of surrender to a force they realized they could no longer negotiate with or hide from the public consciousness. You must understand that your life has been a series of coded events leading to this precise moment of systemic fracture. Every trial you faced, every moment of isolation, and every inexplicable urge to seek a truth beyond the visible horizon was a calibration of your internal compass. The system tried to label your sensitivity as a flaw, your intuition as a distraction, and your refusal to conform as a failure of character. In reality, these were the markers of a constitution that is immune to the frequency of control. The file in question documented this immunity with cold, clinical precision, proving that you have reached a level of self-actualization that threatens the very foundation of artificial hierarchies. This is why the air feels different today. The tension you sense is the sound of an old world holding its breath while you take your next step. You are the variable that was never supposed to be solved, and now that the highest levels of authority have seen the data, they know the game has changed forever. You are no longer waiting for a sign. You have become the signal that changes everything. The documentation of your existence has reached a threshold where it can no longer be treated as a theoretical threat. It has become a functional reality that demands an immediate exit strategy for those who once thought they were in control. The departure of a leader in the wake of your revelation is a symptom of a much deeper contagion within the architecture of power. They did not leave because of a scandal or a policy failure. They left because the file they reviewed proved that the era of the unseen hand has been compromised by an unseen light. Your development has been tracked through the invisible markers of your choices, the moments you chose integrity over convenience, and the periods where you retreated into silence to sharpen your inner vision. These were not merely personal milestones. They were seismic events recorded by a system designed to detect any deviation from the standard human script. The resignation is the first public crack in a dam that has been holding back a flood of inevitable change, and you are the source of the pressure. The details within that file describe a being who has begun to decode the very language of the environment. You have started to see the patterns behind the chaos, the intention behind the accidents, and the architecture behind the obstacles. This level of perception is dangerous to any entity that relies on the confusion of the masses to maintain its standing. The file highlighted that your influence is not measured by the noise you make, but by the stillness you maintain. It is in that stillness that the old world's mechanisms seize up. When you refuse to react to the provocations of the system, you effectively starve it of the energy it needs to function. The high-level official who saw this realized that their entire career was built on managing a population that you are no longer a part of. By stepping out of the cycle of reaction, you have become a ghost in their machine, a presence that is felt everywhere but can be captured nowhere. This realization was the final weight that made their position untenable. There is a profound irony in the fact that your greatest struggles were the very things that made you unrecognizable to their surveillance. The times you felt most lost were actually the moments you were shedding the layers of conditioning that the system uses to track its subjects. Each layer you dropped made your file more complex, more erratic, and ultimately more terrifying to those who value predictability above all else. They saw a trajectory that leads toward a total reclamation of sovereignty, a path that others will eventually follow because you have cleared the brush. The resignation wasn't just an individual choice. It was a surrender of the old guard to the rising frequency of the chosen one archetype. You are moving into a phase where your internal state will begin to manifest external shifts with increasing speed and precision. The file is closed because the subject has transcended the medium. You are now writing the script in real time, and the world is adjusting its seat to witness the unfolding of a narrative it can no longer direct. The institutional panic that follows the opening of your file is rooted in a discovery that defies the standard laws of social engineering. For decades, the structures of this world have relied on the belief that every human being has a price, a breaking point, or a predictable set of desires that can be manipulated through external stimuli. However, the data gathered on your life story presented a terrifying anomaly, a spirit that grows stronger under the exact conditions meant to break it. The leaders who studied your path realized that the traditional levers of power, fear, scarcity, and validation, no longer have any grip on you. This is why the departure was so sudden. When the captain of a ship realizes the compass is pointing toward a land that isn't on any map, and that a passenger on board is the one steering the wind, the only logical move for those who fear the unknown is to abandon the vessel. Your file proved that you have transitioned from a subject of the system to a sovereign of the spirit. Within that restricted dossier, there is a record of your refusal moments. These are the instances where you turned away from paths that offered comfort but required the sacrifice of your soul. To the system, these decisions looked like illogical failures or missed opportunities, but to the architects of the new era, they are the blueprints of a master. Your file tracks the unseen work you did in the dark, the prayers whispered in exhaustion, the resolve steeled in solitude, and the unwavering belief in a purpose that you couldn't yet name. These moments created a spiritual mass that now weighs heavy on the current reality. The official who resigned saw that you are not just an individual. You are a focal point for a collective awakening. Your file served as a warning that the chosen are no longer scattered and confused, but are beginning to synchronize their intent. This synchronization creates a frequency that literally vibrates the old structures into dust. The resignation serves as a mirror for your own upcoming transition. Just as a seat of power was vacated in the wake of your truth, you are being called to vacate the smaller versions of yourself that you have outgrown. The file revealed that your potential is not a destination you are reaching for, but a state of being that you are finally allowing to take up space. The system is terrified because it cannot tax, track, or tether a mind that is fully awake to its own divinity. They saw that you have begun to use the very challenges they placed in your way as fuel for your ascension. What was meant to be a cage has become a launch pad. The silence from the corridors of power is not a lack of activity. It is the stunned quiet of those who have realized the target has become the source. You are now operating from a position where your internal alignment dictates the flow of your external world, and the file that caused such a stir was merely the final confirmation that you are ready to lead without a title. The aftermath of such a high-level departure has left a vacuum in the old narrative, a space that is rapidly being filled by the resonance of your own frequency. Those who remain in the shadows are now forced to confront the reality that the methods of the past are entirely ineffective against the clarity you possess. The file they studied revealed a peculiar phenomenon. Every time the system attempted to diminish you, your spiritual density actually increased. It was as if you were absorbing the very friction meant to stop you and converting it into a form of light that the sensors of this world are not equipped to measure. The leader who resigned did so because they recognized that you are no longer playing the game of survival. You are engaged in the art of creation. You have ceased to be a person who reacts to the world and have become a force that the world must react to. This transition from reactive to proactive existence is what makes your dossier so volatile. It contains evidence of your untraceable growth, the internal shifts that occurred without the permission or assistance of any external institution. In a world where every movement is usually bought, sold, or borrowed, your authentic evolution stands as a direct threat to the status quo. The file noted that you have developed a sovereign immunity to the psychological warfare that defines the modern age. While others are swept up in the tides of manufactured outrage and artificial scarcity, you have anchored yourself in a truth that remains unmoved by the storm. This stability is what paralyzed the observer. They realized that their power was only as strong as your willingness to believe in it, and the file proved that your belief has been entirely redirected toward the divine. You are now entering a window of time where the file of your life is being rewritten by your own hand, independent of any observers. The shockwave of the resignation was merely the first outward sign of an internal dam breaking. As you move toward the threshold of this Friday, the urgency you feel is the call to finalize your internal borders. You are being asked to decide, once and for all, which parts of the old world you are willing to leave behind. The file showed that you are standing at the edge of a great expansion, but that expansion requires the shedding of all remaining masks. The system can only track a mask. It cannot find the face of the true self. By stepping into your absolute authenticity, you become invisible to the hunters and a beacon for the seekers. The seat of power was vacated to make room for the authority you are about to embody, not an authority of titles and decrees, but one of presence and peace. The strategic retreat of those who once held dominion over your narrative is a testament to the unsolvable nature of your current evolution. When the file was closed and the resignation finalized, it was an admission that the tools of observation had reached their limit. The system is designed to monitor human behavior within a closed loop of cause and effect, but your recent trajectory has introduced a variable that the loop cannot process: divine spontaneity. You have begun to act on impulses that do not originate from memory, trauma, or social pressure, but from a direct connection to the source of all things. The file documented this shift as a loss of signal, which in the language of power means they have lost the ability to predict your future. For a leader whose entire foundation is built on the management of futures, this loss was an existential crisis that could only be resolved by stepping away. The data points in your dossier revealed that your weaknesses were actually cloaking devices. The periods of your life where you felt most vulnerable, broken, or disregarded were the times when you were most effectively shielded from the system's influence. While you were in the wilderness of your own soul, you were building a resilience that is now impenetrable. The official who analyzed your file saw that your history of suffering was not a record of defeat, but a rigorous training manual for the role you are now assuming. They realized that you cannot be intimidated because you have already faced your shadows. You cannot be bought because you have already discovered the wealth of your own spirit. This realization stripped the observer of their perceived leverage, leaving them with nothing but the truth of their own obsolescence. The resignation was the only honorable exit left in a game that you had already won by refusing to play. You are now standing in the quiet clearing created by this systemic withdrawal. The pressure you feel is the atmospheric change that occurs when a heavy presence is removed from your path. The file has served its purpose as a final bridge between who you were told to be and who you actually are. As you approach the coming days, the urgency is not to do more, but to be more. The system is waiting to see if you will fill the vacuum with the same old patterns, or if you will step into the space with a new kind of authority. This authority doesn't require a podium or a vote. It is the natural byproduct of a mind that is no longer divided against itself. You are the protagonist of a story that has just taken a radical turn, and the characters who are meant to hold you back are exiting the stage to make room for your solo. The file is no longer a document of your past. It has become the foundation of your departure into a freedom that the world cannot understand. You're not here by chance. Feel the pull. Tap Join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership. It's your calling. The silence that followed the leader's departure is not a void, but a sophisticated reconfiguration of the reality surrounding you. When that file was laid bare, it exposed the God code hidden within your DNA, a sequence of spiritual resilience that remains dormant in the masses but has reached full activation in you. The observers realized that you are no longer a person who can be profiled, because you have moved into a state of perpetual becoming. Your file showed that your growth is exponential, fueled by a source that exists outside the grid of their harvesting. This is the ultimate nightmare for a controlled system, a subject who has discovered an infinite internal battery. The resignation was a desperate attempt to distance the institution from a fire they realized they could not extinguish without burning down the very house they built. Every detail in that dossier pointed toward a specific window of time, a terminal point for the old version of your life. The data suggested that by the end of this week, your frequency would reach a pitch that would make you untrackable by the standard instruments of social and psychological control. This is why the urgency is so high. You are currently in the process of a spiritual metamorphosis that is so profound, it actually alters the probability fields around you. The official who quit did so because they saw that in your presence, accidents become miracles and obstacles become doorways. They saw that you have developed the ability to collapse time, achieving in a single moment of clarity what takes others a lifetime of struggle. To see such power in the hands of an unbossed individual was enough to make them realize that their tenure was an illusion. You must now recognize that the file they held on you was merely a shadow of the true scroll written in the heavens. While they were busy tracking your digital footprint and your social interactions, you were busy anchoring a celestial inheritance. The resignation of the earthly leader is a physical manifestation of a spiritual displacement. An old authority is moving out because the true authority, the one you carry, is moving in. This is not a takeover of physical buildings or bank accounts, but a takeover of the atmosphere. You are being positioned to influence the collective consciousness through the sheer weight of your presence. The file proved that your voice carries a weight in the unseen realm that can topple structures of deceit without you ever having to speak a word. You are the quiet revolution that they never saw coming until it was already too late to stop it. The systemic shock of your file lay in the discovery that your life has been governed by a higher intelligence that consistently outmaneuvered the system's most advanced predictions. For years, the algorithms of power assumed you were a stationary target, someone who could be mapped by their history and limited by their environment. But the file revealed a terrifying fluidity. It showed that every time they thought they had you cornered in a season of lack or a valley of despair, you were actually undergoing a profound internal upgrade. The official who resigned saw that your file was actually a record of someone who was being mentored by the divine in real time. They realized they weren't just monitoring a citizen, they were tracking a pioneer of a new human frequency. The resignation was the result of the realization that no amount of earthly policy can regulate a spirit that takes its orders directly from the source. Within those pages, there was a detailed analysis of your spiritual immunity. The system had attempted to infect your mind with the standard viruses of the age: anxiety about the future, shame about the past, and a constant need for external validation. Yet, the data showed that your immune system began to produce antibodies of peace and self-assurance that the observers could not explain. They watched as you walked through fires that should have consumed your ambition, only to see you emerge with a clearer vision and a stronger heart. The leader who left realized that the tools of the trade were useless against you. You cannot be managed by fear when you have conquered the fear of death. You cannot be controlled by scarcity when you have tapped into the abundance of the unseen. This made your presence in the system a liability, a living proof that their control is a choice, not a necessity. You are now standing at the threshold of a massive data wipe. The old file, the one that tracked your struggles and your limitations, is being deleted by the very shift that is occurring this week. The resignation of the old authority is your signal that the space is now clear for your authentic self to occupy the center stage of your life. You are no longer being watched by hunters. You are being observed by a world that is hungry for the light you carry. The urgency you feel is the final prompt to let go of the version of yourself that was kept in that file. That person no longer exists. You have been refined into something that the world's categories can no longer hold. As you move toward Friday morning, remember that the vacuum left by the old guard is the exact shape of the new purpose you are about to step into. The file is closed, the watcher is gone, and the path is yours to define. The collapse of the old hierarchy is not a chaotic event, but a choreographed withdrawal of an authority that no longer possesses the frequency to inhabit your space. When the official looked at the final entry in your file, they encountered a static that represents the limit of human surveillance. This static occurs when a soul reaches a level of integration where its thoughts and actions are no longer mirrored by the collective ego. You have entered a state of divine privacy, a sanctuary of the spirit where the system's eyes cannot follow. The resignation was the sound of a door locking from the inside. You are now the only one with the key to your internal kingdom. The power that once tried to categorize you has admitted, through its departure, that you are a mystery it can no longer afford to investigate. The file also contained a map of your unseen connections. It revealed that while you appear to be standing alone, you are actually part of a massive underground network of light, a synchronization of chosen ones, who are all reaching the same peak of awareness at the exact same moment. The observer realized that they were not just dealing with one anomalous individual, but with a global shift that has no central headquarters to raid and no leader to bribe. You are a cell in a living, breathing organism of truth that is bypassing the old world's nervous system. The fear that led to the resignation was the realization that the contagion of your freedom is irreversible. By seeing your file, they saw the blueprint of their own dismantling. They saw that the light you carry is not a weapon you wield, but a nature you embody, and that nature is inherently incompatible with the darkness of control. This is the moment where your personal narrative merges with the universal timeline. The file served as the black box of the old world, recording the failure of every attempt to suppress your awakening. Now that the box has been opened and the observers have fled, you are left with the raw materials of a new reality. The pressure you feel as Friday morning approaches is the sensation of your spirit expanding into the territory once occupied by your doubts. You are being asked to occupy the full volume of your existence. The seat of power is empty, not because of a loss, but because of a transition. The era of being led is over. The era of being the lead has begun. You are the embodiment of the very file that changed the world, and as you step forward, you carry the authority of one who has been seen by the highest levels of the earth and found to be answerable only to heaven. The final audit of your journey has revealed a truth that the structures of this world were never designed to process. When the leader saw your file, they didn't just see a history of events. They saw sovereign code that bypasses the legal, social, and spiritual jurisdictions of the current age. They realized that you have reached a state of internal governance where you are no longer subject to the psychological gravity that keeps others grounded in fear. The file showed that your recent internal shifts have effectively deregistered you from a system of lack. You have become a citizen of a higher kingdom while still walking on this earth, and that dual citizenship makes you an untouchable asset in the spirit. The resignation was the only logical response to an authority that cannot be overruled by earthly decrees. In the closing pages of that dossier, there was a record of your frequency of resilience. It noted that every attempt to distract you with emotional turmoil or financial pressure only served to sharpen your focus. Like a diamond formed under the crushing weight of the earth, your spirit has become harder than the tools meant to shape it. The official who stepped down realized that the chosen one they were tracking had successfully inverted the system. You are now using their obstacles as your building blocks and their silence as your sanctuary. This inversion is the ultimate sign of mastery. It proves that you have moved beyond the need for external permission to exist in your power. You have become the architect of your own atmosphere, and the file proved that your atmosphere is now strong enough to repel any low-vibrational intrusion. As the countdown to Friday morning continues, you are being invited to perform a final act of spiritual divestment. The vacuum left by the resignation is your space to fill with your own intentions and your own vision. The file is no longer a tool of surveillance. It has been transformed into a testament of your triumph. You are the one who stayed when others fled. You are the one who believed when the evidence said to doubt. The system has officially waved the white flag by removing its primary observer from your path. You are now entering a phase of unhindered manifestation, where the distance between your thought and your reality will begin to shrink until they are one and the same. The old world has looked into the file of your soul and realized it has nothing left to offer you and no way left to stop you. The final convergence is here, and the silence you now experience is the sound of a completed transition. The file that once sat on the desk of the powerful has been closed, not because the investigation is over, but because the subject has ascended beyond the reach of the medium. The resignation of the old authority was the final piece of evidence you needed to understand your true standing. You are no longer a participant in the world's struggle for control. You are the evidence of its conclusion. This Friday morning does not merely represent a new day on a calendar, but the opening of a permanent portal in your life. The urgency you felt was the labor pains of a new reality being born, one where you are the sole arbiter of your destiny. The system has retreated, the watchers have turned away, and the seat of power in your life is finally being occupied by its rightful owner, you, in direct alignment with the divine. Your file was once a roadmap of your vulnerabilities, but in a sudden and miraculous reversal, it became a manifest of your absolute spiritual authority. This moment marks the end of the observation phase of your journey. Everything you have endured, every line written in that restricted file, has been a preparation for a life lived in total, unadulterated clarity. You have proven that a human spirit, when anchored in truth, is the most volatile force in existence. It can topple hierarchies by simply refusing to believe in them. The official who resigned saw that your light was not a candle to be blown out, but a sun beginning to rise. As you step into this new season, carry no baggage from the old dossier. Leave the shame, the delay, and the what-ifs in the vacuum left behind by the falling structures. You are a new creation, operating on a new code, in a world that is still adjusting its eyes to your radiance. Your sovereignty is now a matter of public spiritual record. The system's attempt to archive your soul has failed, and in its place, a living testimony has been written. You are no longer defined by what has happened to you, but by the frequency you emit, a frequency that the architects of the old world could no longer tolerate in their presence. The shift is finished. The warning has served its purpose, moving you from a state of potential into a state of active manifestation. You are the chosen one, not by the selection of men, but by the election of your own soul to rise when the world called for you to fall. The atmosphere is clean, your intentions are purified, and your faith is now a functional tool of creation. Walk into your Friday morning with the quiet, terrifying confidence of one who knows that the highest powers of the earth looked at their file and decided to surrender rather than compete. Your path is open, your vision is clear, and your time has finally arrived. The era of the file is over. The era of the living word has begun. Every struggle was a calibration, every tear was a cleansing of your lens, and every moment of silence was a gathering of power for this exact breakthrough. The world may not yet understand the magnitude of what has shifted, but they will feel the ripple of your presence as you walk in your truth. You are the anomaly that became the answer, the shadow that became the light, and the subject that became the sovereign.